The transport ship Crimson Talon shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Kepler 442b, its hull groaning under the stress of atmospheric entry. Captain Marcus Chen gripped his command chair as the vessel bucked and rolled through the turbulent air. The planet below stretched out like a canvas of rust-colored desert punctuated by jagged mountain ranges and deep canyons that carved through the landscape like ancient scars. "Rough entry, Captain," called out Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez from the navigation console. "Atmospheric density is higher than our initial scans indicated." Chen nodded, his weathered face focused on the main display. "Any sign of the distress beacon?" "Still picking it up, sir. Signal is weak but consistent. Bearing 27 Mark IV, approximately 12 kilometers from our projected landing zone." The Crimson Talon was a human exploration vessel, one of dozens sent out by the Terran Federation to investigate mysterious signals detected across this sector of space. What made this particular signal interesting was its origin. It wasn't human, and it wasn't from any known alien civilization that humanity had encountered in their brief but eventful journey into the stars. 3 months ago, long-range sensors had detected what appeared to be a crash site on this remote world. The signal was faint, but its pattern suggested some form of automated distress call. Standard protocol would have been to mark the location and move on, but something about the signal's complexity had caught the attention of Federation scientists. It wasn't random, there was intelligence behind it, a desperate plea for help that transcended species barriers. "Taking her down now," announced Pilot Officer Jake Morrison from the cockpit. "Landing zone looks clear, but I'm seeing some unusual geological formations nearby. Could be remnants of whatever crashed here." As the ship descended, Chen studied the barren landscape through the viewport. Kepler 442b was technically within the habitable zone of its star, but barely. The atmosphere was thin, the surface temperature hovered just above freezing, and the endless expanse of rocky desert suggested a world that had seen better days. Whatever had brought them here, it had chosen one of the most desolate places in the galaxy to make its final stand. The landing thrusters fired with a thunderous roar, kicking up clouds of rust-colored dust that obscured their view for several minutes. When the dust finally settled, Chen could see they had landed in a relatively flat depression surrounded by towering rock formations that jutted from the ground like ancient monuments. "Atmosphere check?" Chen asked. "Breathable, but barely," replied Dr. Elizabeth Warner, the mission's xenobiologist. "Oxygen content is low, but our suits can compensate. Temperature is -2 Celsius. Not exactly tropical, but we've worked in worse conditions." Chen stood and moved to the equipment locker, pulling out his environmental suit. "All right, people. Standard away team protocol. Rodriguez, Morrison, Warner, you're with me. Stevens, you maintain ship's watch and keep our communications open." Within minutes, the away team was suited up and ready for deployment. Their environmental suits were marvels of human engineering, lightweight but durable, with built-in atmospheric processors, temperature regulation, and communication systems that could function across vast distances. Each suit was also equipped with medical sensors, emergency supplies, and a small but effective defensive weapon system. The airlock cycled, and Chen stepped onto the alien world for the first time. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth standard, making each step feel slightly bouncing. The landscape was even more desolate up close, endless stretches of rocky ground broken by occasional patches of what might have been fossilized vegetation from some ancient era when this world had been more hospitable to life. "Distress beacon is definitely stronger now," Rodriguez reported, checking her handheld scanner. "Signal is coming from that direction." She pointed toward a cluster of rock formations about 2 kilometers to the north. The team began their trek across the alien landscape. The thin atmosphere made every breath feel inadequate, even with their suits' assistance, but they pressed on. As they walked, Dr. Warner collected samples of soil and rock, while Morrison kept his eyes on the sky, watching for any signs of unexpected weather patterns or other hazards. After an hour of steady walking, they crested a low ridge and found themselves looking down into a deep canyon. At the bottom, partially buried under centuries of accumulated dust and debris, lay the unmistakable wreckage of a spacecraft. But this wasn't like any human vessel they had ever seen. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Crimson Talon, and its design was alien in every sense of the word. The hull was composed of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and what appeared to be weapon systems jutted from various points along its length. But what struck them most was the condition of the wreckage. This ship hadn't just crashed, it had been destroyed in battle. "Look at those blast marks," Morrison whispered, his voice carrying a note of awe through the comm system. "Something hit this ship hard. Multiple times. And, recently," added Dr. Warner, studying her readings. "Based on the minimal weathering and the lack of accumulated debris, I'd estimate this crash occurred within the last few months, maybe even weeks." Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's cold atmosphere. "The distress signal? Definitely coming from inside the wreck," Rodriguez confirmed. "But, Captain, there's something else. I'm reading faint life signs." The team exchanged glances through their helmet visors. The possibility of finding living survivors after all this time seemed remote, but their duty was clear. They made their way down into the canyon, carefully navigating the loose rocks and unstable terrain. Up close, the alien vessel was even more impressive and intimidating. The hull plating was scorched and twisted in places, clearly showing the devastating effects of energy weapons. But, despite the damage, much of the ship's structure remained intact. They found what appeared to be an airlock, though its design was unlike anything in human technology. "Can we get inside?" Chen asked. Morrison studied the alien mechanism for several minutes before nodding. "I think so. This appears to be some kind of emergency access port. It's designed to be opened from the outside, probably for rescue operations." It took another 20 minutes to figure out the alien locking mechanism, but, eventually, the portal cycled open with a hiss of equalizing atmosphere. The interior of the ship was dark, illuminated only by their helmet lights and the occasional flicker of what might have been emergency power systems. The corridors were larger than those found on human ships, suggesting that whoever built this vessel was considerably bigger than humans. The walls were covered with the same dark metal as the exterior, and strange symbols were etched into various surfaces, possibly writing or navigational markers. "Life signs are stronger now," Rodriguez reported. "Whatever's alive in here, it's deeper in the ship. Probably in what would be the central or rear sections." As they moved deeper into the alien vessel, they began to encounter signs of battle damage inside as well. Blast marks scorched the walls, and, in several places, they found what appeared to be the remains of the ship's crew. The aliens were humanoid in basic structure but clearly not human. They were larger, with elongated limbs and what appeared to be natural armor plating covering their bodies. "These aren't the beings that built this ship," Dr. Warner observed after examining one of the bodies. "The proportions are all wrong. These look like they were wearing some kind of combat armor, but it's integrated with their biology somehow." They continued deeper into the ship, following Rodriguez's scanner readings toward the source of the life signs. The architecture became more complex as they moved toward what appeared to be the ship's core areas. They passed what might have been weapons storage areas, containing devices that looked lethal even without understanding their function. Finally, they reached a large chamber near the ship's center. The room was partially collapsed, with debris scattered everywhere, but their lights revealed something extraordinary. In the far corner of the room, partially buried under fallen ceiling panels, was a creature unlike anything they had ever encountered. At first glance, it looked somewhat like a large dog or wolf, but there were key differences that marked it as definitely alien. Its fur was a deep blue-black color that seemed to shift and shimmer in their lights. It was easily the size of a small horse, with powerful limbs and a head that was more angular than any terrestrial canine. Most striking were its eyes, large, intelligent, and definitely aware of their presence. The creature was clearly injured. One of its rear legs was trapped under a heavy beam, and they could see what appeared to be energy weapon burns along its flanks. But, despite its injuries, it watched them with alert, calculating intelligence. "It's beautiful," Dr. Warner breathed. "And definitely sentient. Look at those eyes." The creature's breathing was labored, and it was clear that it had been trapped here for some time. Near its position, they could see the source of the distress signal, a small device that appeared to be built into some kind of collar or harness around the creature's neck. "It's been calling for help," Chen realized. "All this time, it's been calling for rescue." The creature made a sound, not quite a bark or howl, but something that conveyed both pain and hope. It was clear that it recognized them as potential rescuers, despite the fact that they were obviously not the same species as its original companions. "Can we get it out of there?" Morrison asked, studying the debris that pinned the creature. "That beam is heavy," Rodriguez noted, "but our suits have assisted strength capabilities. If we work together, we might be able to lift it enough for the creature to get free." Chen looked at his team, then, back at the trapped alien. Every protocol said they should return to their ship, report their findings, and wait for a properly equipped rescue team. But, looking into those intelligent eyes, he knew they couldn't just walk away.
Warner, what do you think? Can we safely approach it?
The xenobiologist studied her readings carefully. Its vital signs suggest extreme stress and pain, but I'm not detecting any signs of aggression or hostility.
If anything, it seems to understand that we're here to help.
The creature made another sound, softer this time, almost pleading. It was clear that despite their alien nature, it had recognized their intentions.
All right, Chen decided. Let's see if we can help our new friend.
As they approached the creature, it remained calm, though its eyes never left them. When they reached the beam that pinned its leg, Chen positioned his team for maximum leverage.
On my count, he said. 3, 2, 1 left.
Their powered suits whined with effort as they raised the heavy beam. The metal groaned but slowly began to rise. The creature seemed to understand what was happening and carefully pulled its injured leg free.
As soon as it was clear, they gently lowered the beam back down.
The creature tried to stand but immediately collapsed again, clearly unable to put weight on its injured leg.
We need to get it back to the ship, Dr. Warner said.
I can treat its injuries there, but we need proper medical facilities. The creature looked at them with what could only be described as gratitude. Despite the language barrier, despite the vast differences between their species, there was a moment of perfect understanding between them.
How do we transport it? Morrison asked practically. It's got to weigh at least 200 kilograms.
Chen studied their situation. The creature was clearly too injured to walk, and too large for them to carry easily, even with their enhanced suits. But, looking around the alien ship, he spotted what appeared to be some kind of transport device, a flat platform with what looked like hover generators.
Can we get that working? He asked Morrison. The pilot examined the alien device. Maybe.
The power systems seem compatible with our portable generators.
Give me a few minutes.
While Morrison worked on the transport platform, Dr. Warner began a careful examination of the creature's injuries. It remained calm throughout her inspection, seeming to understand that she was trying to help.
Multiple energy weapon burns, she reported.
The leg injury is severe but not life-threatening.
What concerns me more is the signs of dehydration and malnutrition.
This creature has been trapped here for weeks, maybe longer. Morrison got the platform operational just as Dr. Warner finished her preliminary examination. Working together, they carefully maneuvered the creature onto the transport device. It was too weak to resist, even if it had wanted to, but its behavior suggested complete trust in their intentions. The journey back through the alien ship and across the planet's surface to their own vessel took nearly 3 hours. The creature remained conscious throughout the trip, its eyes constantly moving as it took in its surroundings. When they finally reached the Crimson Talon, it looked up at the human ship with what appeared to be curiosity rather than fear. Getting the creature into their ship required some creative engineering, but they managed to transport it to the cargo bay, where Dr. Warner had set up a temporary medical facility. The creature seemed fascinated by the human technology, its head turning to follow every movement, every light, every sound. Stevens, Chen called to his remaining crew member, prepare a message for Federation Command.
Priority 1.
We've made contact with a new species, and we have a survivor that requires immediate medical attention. As Dr. Warner began treating the creature's injuries, Chen found himself studying their unexpected patient. There was something about the creature that went beyond simple intelligence. In its eyes, he could see not just awareness, but purpose. This wasn't just some alien animal, this was a being with its own agenda, its own loyalties, its own understanding of duty and honor. The creature seemed to sense his scrutiny and turned its head to look directly at Chen. For a long moment, the human captain and the alien being regarded each other across the vast gulf of species and evolution. Then, slowly, deliberately, the creature moved its head in what could only be described as a nod of acknowledgement. Chen felt a chill of recognition. Whatever this creature was, wherever it had come from, it was clearly more than just a survivor of a crashed ship. This was a warrior, a guardian, a being bred and trained for battle. And, somehow, despite everything it had been through, it had chosen to trust them. Captain, Dr. Warner called softly.
You need to see this.
Chen moved to where she was working on the creature's injured leg.
What is it? This collar, it's not just a distress beacon. It's a sophisticated piece of technology. Translator systems, vital sign monitors, even what appears to be some kind of tactical communication array. This creature wasn't just on that ship, it was part of the crew. As if responding to their conversation, the creature lifted its head and made a series of sounds that were clearly attempts at communication. The translator built into its collar flickered to life, and, suddenly, the cargo bay was filled with a voice artificial but clearly intelligent. Gratitude to Skywalkers for rescue. AM Zixka, guardian bound of the fallen ship. Defender class of the Kethran Alliance. Chen felt his breath catch. First contact protocols were clear, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. They weren't just dealing with a survivor, they were dealing with a military asset from an unknown alien civilization. Can you understand us? Chen asked carefully. The creature, Zixka, tilted its head and the translator responded. Understanding partial, language patterns similar to archived references. You are protector species? Rescue clan? We are humans, Chen replied. We received your distress call and came to help. There was a long pause as the translator processed this information. Then, Zixka's eyes widened, and it struggled to lift itself despite its injuries. Humans. The translation came through with something that might have been awe. The legends speak of humans. The species that cannot be conquered, cannot be broken, cannot abandon the innocent. Chen exchanged glances with his crew. Legends? Stories pass through the alliance of a young species that fights wars it cannot win to save peoples it barely knows. Species that makes impossible rescues against impossible odds. Dr. Warner looked up from her medical work. It knows about us. Captain, how is that possible? We've only been in space for 50 years, and we've never encountered this Kethran alliance. Zixka seemed to understand their confusion. Human actions echo through the galaxy. Your species fights the Vorth, the Devourers, the Destroyers of Worlds. Many species owe survival to human intervention. The cargo bay fell silent except for the hum of medical equipment and life support systems. Chen felt the weight of implications settling on his shoulders. Somehow, without realizing it, humanity had gained a reputation among alien civilizations they had never even met. The ship that crashed, Chen asked carefully, what happened to it? Zixka's ears flattened against its head, and, when the translation came, it carried undertones of grief and rage. Vorth assault fleet, ambush at the Kepler threshold. My pack leader, my bond brothers, all fallen in battle. Ship critical, made emergency jump to unknown system. You were the only survivor? Guardian class, bred for survival, trained to continue mission, even when pack leader falls. But, injury, trapped, could not complete duty. Dr. Warner looked up from her work. What was your duty? The great head turned toward her, and the alien eyes seemed to burn with renewed purpose. Carry warning to human space. Vorth fleet, moving toward Terran Federation, your people in great danger. Chen felt his blood turn to ice. The Vorth, humanity's greatest enemy, the species that had declared war on the Federation without provocation or possibility of negotiation. If they were moving toward human space in force. How long ago did your ship crash? He asked urgently. Cycles, many cycles. Zixka's head dropped with exhaustion. Too long, warning may come, too late. Chen was already moving toward the communication console. Stevens. Get me a priority channel to Federation Command. Emergency protocols. But, even as he moved to send the warning that might save his species, Chen found his eyes drawn back to the alien creature lying in their cargo bay. Zixka had suffered injuries, watched its companions die, been trapped alone for weeks on a hostile world, and its first concern upon rescue was to continue its mission to help humanity. Looking into those intelligent alien eyes, Chen realized that they hadn't just rescued a survivor. They had found something far more valuable than they could have imagined. They had found an ally. And, judging by what Zixka had told them about humanity's reputation, they might have found the key to understanding their place in a galaxy far more complex and dangerous than they had ever imagined. The creature closed its eyes, finally, allowing itself to rest now that its duty was being fulfilled. But, Chen could see that even in sleep, its muscles remained tensed, ready for action. This was a warrior, bred for battle, trained for loyalty, and, somehow, fate had delivered it into their hands just when they needed it most. As the Crimson Talon prepared to leave the desolate planet behind,
Chen couldn't shake the feeling that their chance encounter with Zixka was more than mere coincidence. In a universe where humanity was still learning its place among the stars, they had found a guardian, and, perhaps, if they proved worthy of the trust they had been given, they had found a friend. The journey back to Federation space took 18 days, and, during that time, Dr. Warner worked tirelessly to heal Zixka's injuries while Captain Chen tried to learn everything he could about their unexpected passenger and the threat approaching human territory. The alien's recovery was remarkable. Its species appeared to have accelerated healing abilities that impressed even Warner's experienced medical eye. On the third day of their journey, Zixka was able to stand and walk short distances. By the seventh day, the creature was moving with fluid grace throughout the cargo bay, which Chen had converted into temporary quarters. The alien's natural athleticism was impressive, but what struck the human crew most was its obvious intelligence and curiosity about everything around it. Zixka seemed fascinated by human technology, spending hours studying the ship's systems with an engineer's eye for detail. Through the translator, it asked countless questions about human manufacturing techniques, power systems, and, especially, their weapons technology. Your species builds differently, Zixka observed during one of its conversations with Morrison. Simpler materials, but clever integration. Efficiency over raw power. Morrison looked up from the engine diagnostic he was running. We have to be efficient. We don't have access to the advanced materials that older civilizations use. We make do with what we can find or manufacture. This is wisdom, the alien replied thoughtfully. Many species become dependent on complex systems. When resources fail, they cannot adapt. Humans build with assumption of failure. Chen, who had been listening to the conversation, found that observation particularly interesting. Is that why your people have legends about humans? Because we adapt? Zixka turned its attention to the captain, its large eyes reflecting the soft lighting of the cargo bay. Stories tell of human fleet, outgunned 10-1 by Vorth dreadnoughts, human ships too small, too weak to fight. But humans did not retreat. Instead, used enemy strength against themselves. The Battle of Proxima Station, Chen realized. You know about that? Know of it? Captain Pack Leader Chen. Catherine Alliance owes survival to human sacrifice at Proxima. Vorth Armada intended to sweep through Alliance territory after destroying human settlements. Human stand gave Alliance time to evacuate core worlds. Dr. Warner, who had been monitoring Zixka's vital signs during the conversation, looked up with surprise. That battle was classified at the highest levels. How could your people know details about it? Zixka's expression, as much as they could read alien expressions, seemed almost amused. Galaxy is smaller than humans believe. Actions echo through jump routes and trade networks. When species fights impossible battle to save others, word spreads quickly. Over the following days, Chen began to piece together a picture of the galactic political situation that was far more complex than the Federation had realized. Through careful questioning, he learned that humanity's war with the Vorth had implications reaching across dozens of star systems and multiple alien civilizations. The Vorth, it seemed, were not just humanity's enemy, they were a plague upon the galaxy. Their philosophy was simple and terrifying: any species not strong enough to defeat them deserved to be enslaved or destroyed. They moved through space like a cosmic wildfire, consuming worlds and civilizations with methodical efficiency. How many species have they destroyed? Chen asked during one of their longer conversations. Zixka was quiet for a long moment, its ears flattened against its head, and what they had learned was a sign of distress. In my lifetime alone, 17 civilizations. Some fought, some surrendered, some tried to hide. All failed, all fell. Until humans. What makes humans different? Humans do not fight for victory alone. Humans fight for principle. For others. Vorth cannot understand species that fights harder when defeat is certain. Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had been working on star charts while listening to the conversation, looked up with a troubled expression. Zixka, you said a Vorth fleet was moving toward Federation space. How large of a force are we talking about? The alien's response sent a chill through everyone present. Not fleet, armada. 200 primary vessels, 1,000 support ships, enough firepower to sterilize dozen worlds. The cargo bay fell silent except for the hum of ship's systems. Chen felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a physical burden. The Federation's entire active fleet numbered barely 50 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels hastily equipped with military systems.
Against the force Zixka described, they wouldn't stand a chance in conventional battle. When will they arrive? Chen asked. Timeline uncertain, but soon.
My ship carried warning intended to give human leaders time to prepare defenses or coordinate evacuation. Dr. Warner set down her medical scanner and looked directly at their alien guest.
Zixka, why do your people care what happens to humanity? You could have fled to another galaxy, found safer territory. Why risk your lives to warn us?
The creature stood and moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars rushing past as the Crimson Talon pushed toward human space at maximum velocity. When it finally spoke, its words carried a weight that the translator somehow managed to convey.
Because humans fought when others would not. Because humans stood when others fell. Because in a galaxy growing dark with fear, humans remain light of hope.
Zixka turned back to face them, its alien features somehow conveying profound emotion.
But also because Catherine Alliance knows, if humans fall, we are next.
And we are not ready to face forth alone. The implications of this statement hung in the air like smoke. Shen was beginning to understand that their small exploration ship had become far more than a rescue vessel. They were now carrying intelligence that could determine the fate of multiple civilizations.
Tell me about your people, Chen said. The Catherine Alliance. What kind of civilization are you?
Over the next several hours, Zixka painted a picture of a sophisticated society built around concepts of honor, loyalty, and martial prowess. The Kethran were a proud species that had developed advanced technology and established peaceful relations with dozens of other civilizations. They were warriors by nature, but their conflicts had historically been small-scale affairs, territorial disputes, resource competitions, honored duels between individual clans.
We had never faced total war, Zixka explained. Never fought enemy that sought complete destruction.
Vorth tactics, beyond our experience. The alien went on to describe how the Kethran had initially tried to negotiate with the Vorth, then attempted to fight them using traditional military strategies.
Both approaches had failed catastrophically. Entire Kethran battle groups had been destroyed without inflicting significant damage on the enemy. That is when
Alliance leadership decided to seek human contact. We had heard stories of species that fought differently, that won battles through cunning rather than superior force. Morrison looked up from his engineering console.
So you're looking for military advisors?
More than advisors, partners. Alliance offers full technological exchange, advanced materials, manufacturing techniques, starship designs. In return, humans provide tactical knowledge and promise of mutual defense. Chen felt his pulse quicken. The Federation had been struggling with resource limitations since the beginning of their expansion into space.
Access to advanced alien manufacturing techniques could revolutionize human capabilities. But the cost.
You're asking us to fully commit to this war, he said. War has already committed to you, Zixka replied grimly.
Vorth do not accept surrender. Do not permit neutrality.
Human choices: fight together with allies, or fight alone, and fall alone. Dr. Warner had been unusually quiet during this exchange, but now she spoke up.
Zixka, I need to ask you something personal. You've mentioned pack leaders and bond brothers. Are you some kind of military unit?
The alien's entire demeanor changed, becoming more formal, almost ceremonial.
I am last surviving member of the Crimson Fawn Pack.
Guardian-class operative, bred and trained for deep reconnaissance and search and rescue operations.
Bred? Rodriguez asked.
Kethran military selects genetic lines for specific capabilities. Guardian class enhanced for endurance, survival instincts, loyalty protocols. We are bonded to pack from early age, trained to operate in hostile territory. Shen was beginning to understand the true tragedy of what they had rescued. Zixka wasn't just a survivor, it was the last remnant of what sounded like an elite military unit, alone and cut off from everything it had known. Your pack brothers, Chen said gently, tell me about them.
For the first time since they had rescued it, Zixka showed visible signs of grief. Its head lowered, ears flattened, and, when it spoke, the translator carried undertones of profound loss. Our YTHK pack leader, 15 campaigns, never lost a mission. Velka, heavy weapons specialist, could hit target at impossible range. Jekska, communications and tactical analysis, smartest of us all. Morka, medic and psychological support, kept pack functioning under stress. The alien paused, struggling with emotion. We were deployed together for 7 years. Fought together, bled together, trusted each other with life itself. How did you end up on that ship? Dr. Warner asked softly. Intelligence indicated. Vorth fleet movement toward human space. Pack assigned to intercept communications, gather tactical data, warn human authorities. Mission required deep infiltration of enemy-controlled territory. Zixka began pacing, its movements betraying agitation as it relived the memories. Ship carrying pack ambushed during reconnaissance run. Captain tried emergency jump to escape combat. Jump coordinates, calculated under fire, brought us to your planet. And the rest of your pack? Died defending evacuation route to escape pods. I was injured early in battle, trapped in lower deck when ship impacted. Others died ensuring mission data, survived with me. The cargo bay fell silent again as the weight of Zixka's sacrifice became clear. An entire team of elite alien operatives had died to ensure that humanity received warning of the approaching threat. Chen made a decision that he knew would change the course of his life and, possibly, the fate of his species. Zixka, when we reach Federation space, I want you to accompany me to meet with our military leadership. Will you serve as an official representative of the Kethran Alliance? The alien straightened, its posture becoming formal and military. I am honored by trust, but must warn. I am only junior operative. Not authorized for diplomatic functions. But you carry the intelligence we need, and you understand both our capabilities and the threat we're facing. Right now, you might be our best hope for establishing effective cooperation between our species. Dr. Warner looked up from her medical readings. Captain, there's something else we should consider. Zixka's recovery has been remarkable, but it's also revealed some interesting capabilities. Its healing rate is roughly 3 times faster than human standard, and its physical strength is considerably greater than I initially estimated. She turned to address the alien directly. Zixka, what other capabilities do Guardian-class operatives possess? The creature seemed hesitant to answer, but finally responded. Enhanced reflexes, improved sensory perception, resistance to psychological manipulation. Also, tactical bonding protocols. What does that mean? Morrison asked. Guardian class can form temporary pack bonds with other species. Allows for improved coordination in combat situations. Shared sensory data, tactical communication, enhanced unit cohesion. Chen felt a spark of possibility. Could you form such bonds with humans? Theoretical possibility, but never tested. Humans are significantly different from Kethran physiology. Bonding might not function correctly. Rodriguez looked up from her navigation calculations. Captain, we're approaching the outer markers of Federation space. We should start preparing our arrival protocols. Chen nodded, but his mind was racing with possibilities. They were carrying intelligence that could save humanity, along with a potential ally whose capabilities might complement human forces in ways they couldn't yet imagine. But they were also carrying the responsibility of representing their entire species in what might be the most important first contact in human history. Zixka, he said finally, are you willing to trust humanity with your life once more? Because what we're about to attempt could determine the survival of both our species. The alien looked at him with those large, intelligent eyes, and Chen saw something that transcended species barriers. He saw absolute determination. Captain Pack Leader Chen, you risked everything to save one injured alien on distant world. Your species fights impossible battles to protect strangers. If humans will accept Kethran partnership, we will stand with you until victory or death. As the Crimson Talon crossed into Federation space, Chen knew that they were no longer just carrying a rescued survivor. They were carrying hope for an alliance that could turn the tide of an impossible war, hope for technologies that could level the playing field against superior forces, and hope for a future where humanity was no longer fighting alone against the darkness. But, first, they would have to convince Federation leadership that their impossible rescue mission had brought them something more valuable than intelligence about enemy movements. They had brought them a warrior willing to fight and die alongside humans, and possibly the key to saving not just humanity, but multiple civilizations across the galaxy. The real test was about to begin. Federation Command Headquarters on Luna Station buzzed with tension as the Emergency Council convened. Admiral Sarah Harrison, Supreme Commander of Federation Forces, stood before a holographic display showing the latest intelligence reports. The room was filled with the Federation's top military leaders, scientists, and diplomatic advisors, all trying to process the implications of Captain Chen's extraordinary report. "Let me understand this correctly," Admiral Harrison said, her voice carrying the weight of command authority. "You're telling me that we have an alien survivor from an unknown civilization aboard a Federation vessel, carrying intelligence about an imminent Vorth assault?" Captain Chen, standing at attention in the center of the council chamber, nodded firmly. "Yes, ma'am. The alien operative, designated Zixka of the Kethran Alliance, has provided detailed intelligence about Vorth fleet movements and capabilities. The threat level is beyond anything we've previously encountered." General Marcus Webb, head of Federation Strategic Operations, leaned forward in his chair. "And you believe this intelligence is reliable?" "Sir, the aliens' account correlates with our own surveillance data from the Outer Rim territories. We've detected unusual Vorth movement patterns over the past 6 weeks, but we didn't understand the significance until now." Dr. Elena Vasquez, Federation Chief Science Advisor, gestured to her tablet displaying translation algorithms. "Captain, you mentioned that this alien can communicate with us. How sophisticated is this communication capability?" "The creature possesses an advanced universal translator built into what appears to be military equipment. Communication is clear and detailed. It's also demonstrated remarkable understanding of human technology and tactical thinking." Admiral Harrison studied the holographic tactical display showing known Vorth positions. "Where is this alien now?" "Zixka is aboard my ship, which is currently docked at Bay 7. Dr. Warner has been monitoring its health and capabilities. With your permission, I'd like to bring it before this council." The room erupted in murmurs of concern and debate. The idea of bringing an unknown alien entity into the most secure facility in Federation space was unprecedented. But Admiral Harrison raised her hand for silence. "Before we make that decision, I want to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Dr. Vasquez, what's your assessment of the potential risks?" Based on Captain Chen's reports, the alien appears to be a highly trained military operative with enhanced physical capabilities. However, it has shown no signs of aggression and has actively sought to warn us about a threat to our survival. From a scientific perspective, I believe the potential benefits outweigh the risks." General Webb was less convinced. "Admiral, we're talking about bringing an alien weapon into our most secure facility. How do we know this isn't some kind of Vorth trick?" Chen stepped forward. "General, with respect, this creature was trapped and dying when we found it. It had been alone on that planet for weeks, possibly longer. If this was a deception, it would be the most elaborate and costly intelligence operation in military history." "Tell me about its physical capabilities," Admiral Harrison requested. "Enhanced strength, approximately 3 times human baseline. Accelerated healing that allowed it to recover from severe injuries within days. Advanced sensory perception and what appears to be natural tactical instincts. Dr. Warner believes its species was specifically engineered for military operations." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her notes. "Captain, you mentioned something about bonding protocols in your report. Can you elaborate?" "According to Zixka, Guardian-class operatives can form temporary psychological and tactical bonds with other individuals to enhance unit effectiveness. It offered to demonstrate this capability with my crew." The implications of this statement sent a ripple of excitement through the scientific members of the council. The possibility of enhanced human-alien cooperation in combat situations was revolutionary. Admiral Harrison made her decision. "I want to meet this alien. But we do this under strict security protocols. Full escort, containment fields available, and medical monitoring throughout the encounter." Within an hour, the council chamber had been reconfigured with additional security systems and medical monitoring equipment. When the doors opened and Captain Chen entered with his unusual companion, the effect was immediate and profound. Zixka was impressive in person, larger than the reports had indicated, moving with fluid grace that spoke of perfect physical conditioning.
Its blue-black fur seemed to absorb and reflect light in mesmerizing patterns, and its large eyes took in every detail of the chamber with obvious intelligence.
But what struck the assembled leaders most was its bearing.
This was clearly a military creature, standing at attention, alert but not aggressive, radiating competence and discipline. Council members, Chen announced formally, I present Zixka of the Kethrin Alliance, Guardian-class operative and sole survivor of deep reconnaissance mission aimed at protecting Federation territory. Zixka stepped forward and performed what could only be described as a military salute, a complex gesture that somehow conveyed respect, greeting, and formal introduction simultaneously. The translator around its neck activated, and the chamber filled with its synthesized voice.
Honored leaders of Human Federation, I bring greetings from
Kethrin Alliance, and warning of grave danger approaching your territories.
Admiral Harrison leaned forward in her chair, studying the alien carefully. Zixka, we understand you have intelligence about Vorth fleet movements. Can you provide details?
Yes, honored leader. Vorth High Command has assembled massive armada, designation Crimson Tide, intended to eliminate human resistance permanently. The alien moved to the holographic display and began manipulating the controls with surprising dexterity. Fleet composition: 200 primary vessels, 1,000 support ships, includes 12 Dreadnought-class, world killer vessels.
The hologram shifted to show a three-dimensional representation of the enemy force structure.
The Federation leaders stared in horrified silence at the scope of the armada arrayed against them. General Webb found his voice first. World killers?
What exactly are we talking about?
Vessels capable of sterilizing planetary surfaces through orbital bombardment. Vorth typically deploy against heavily defended worlds to eliminate population centers and industrial capacity.
Dr. Vasquez studied the display with scientific fascination and growing dread. How long do we have before they arrive?
Intelligence suggests arrival in Federation space within 30 standard days. Advanced scouts may arrive sooner to establish surveillance posts. Admiral Harrison felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders like a physical burden. The Federation's entire military capability was insufficient to face even a fraction of the force described by their alien visitor. Zixka, she said carefully, your people sent you to warn us.
What do they propose we do with this information? The alien straightened, its formal bearing becoming even more pronounced. Kethrin Alliance offers full military partnership.
Technology exchange, combined fleet operations, coordinated defense strategies.
What would your people gain from such an arrangement? General Webb asked suspiciously. Survival, Zixka replied with brutal honesty. If humans fall, Alliance is next target.
We have advanced technology, but lack human tactical innovation and adaptability.
Dr. Vasquez leaned forward with interest. What kind of technological advantages are we talking about?
Advanced metallurgy, energy weapons systems, faster-than-light communications, enhanced manufacturing techniques. Alliance has resources humans need to build effective defense systems.
Captain Chen stepped forward.
Admiral, Zixka has also offered to demonstrate the bonding protocols I mentioned in my report. It believes enhanced cooperation between our forces could provide tactical advantages.
Admiral Harrison considered this carefully.
The Federation was facing an impossible military situation, but the aliens' proposal offered hope if they could trust it.
Zixka, these bonding protocols, are they safe for humans?
Theory suggests compatibility, but never tested with human psychology. Process is reversible and temporary, designed to enhance unit effectiveness without permanent alteration. General Webb remains skeptical.
And what happens if this alliance doesn't work out?
We'd be sharing our most sensitive military information with an unknown species. Zixka turned to face the general directly.
General Webb, your concern is logical and appropriate. But consider. Vorth will acquire all human technology when they conquer Federation territory.
Alliance partnership offers chance to prevent this outcome. The alien's next words carried a weight that the translators somehow managed to convey. I have watched Pack Brothers die to bring this warning. I have trusted humans with my life and received honor and healing in return.
Now I ask, will humans trust Kethrin Alliance with chance for mutual survival? Admiral Harrison looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of her fellow leaders. She could see the fear, the uncertainty, but also the recognition that they were facing an impossible situation with conventional resources. Dr. Vasquez, what's your assessment of the risks versus potential benefits?
Admiral, if the intelligence is accurate, and all indicators suggest it is, we're facing extinction within a matter of weeks unless we can dramatically increase our defensive capabilities. The technologies offered by the Kethran Alliance could provide exactly the force multiplication we need.
General Webb sighed heavily.
I still don't like it, but I have to admit that conventional tactics won't save us against the forces described.
If we're going to survive, we need allies.
Admiral Harrison made her decision. Zixka, on behalf of the Federation, I accept the Kethran Alliance's offer of military partnership. But I need to understand exactly what this cooperation will entail. The alien's ears perked up, and its posture shifted to what might have been relief and gratitude. Alliance proposes immediate technology transfer, joint training operations, coordinated fleet deployment, shared intelligence networks.
How quickly can this cooperation be implemented?
Alliance fleet, currently massing at staging area 12 light-years from Federation border. Technology transfer can begin immediately upon confirmation of partnership agreement.
Captain Chen stepped forward. Admiral, I volunteer to serve as liaison for the initial cooperation efforts. My crew and I have already established working relationships with Zixka.
Admiral Harrison nodded. Approved, Captain. But I want this cooperation tested before we commit our entire fleet.
Can we arrange a small-scale demonstration of these enhanced tactics?
Zixka tilted its head thoughtfully. Demonstration possible, but suggest real-world application instead. Vorth advanced scouts, already probing Federation border defenses. Joint operation against Scout Force would provide practical test of cooperation, while gathering additional intelligence about enemy capabilities.
The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in.
They were talking about immediate joint combat operations with an alien species they had just met, against an enemy that had already proven capable of destroying entire civilizations. General Webb looked directly at Zixka.
You're proposing that we conduct military operations with your forces against active Vorth units?
Yes.
Small engagement, low risk, high intelligence value.
Would demonstrate effectiveness of bonding protocols, tactical coordination, technology integration.
Dr. Vasquez was practically vibrating with excitement. Admiral, the learning opportunities from such an operation would be invaluable.
We could gather data on alien technology, combat effectiveness, and cooperation protocols all in a single mission.
Admiral Harrison found herself facing a decision that could determine the fate of humanity.
Everything they knew about the Federation's chances against the approaching Vorth Armada suggested that conventional resistance would fail. But the alternative, trusting an alien species with their survival, carried its own enormous risks. Looking into Zixka's intelligent eyes, she remembered Captain Chen's reports about the creature's dedication to its mission and its willingness to sacrifice everything to warn humanity about the approaching threat.
Very well, she said finally. We'll arrange a joint operation against Vorth scouts.
But this will be a limited engagement, with full monitoring and analysis of all cooperation protocols. If this works, we'll consider expanding the partnership.
Zixka performed its complex salute again. Honored leaders, you will not regret this decision.
Kethran Alliance has waited long time for species willing to stand against Vorth and fight for survival of galaxy. As the council members began discussing the logistics of their unprecedented alliance, Admiral Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that they were crossing a threshold from which there could be no return. But, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching Vorth Armada, she knew they had no choice. Humanity was about to discover whether their reputation for impossible victories would hold true when the stakes were the survival of their entire species, and whether an alien warrior's faith in human courage would prove justified in the darkest hour of both their civilizations. The joint task force assembled at coordinates designated as Rally Point Alpha consisted of 3 Federation vessels and 2 ships from the Kethran Alliance. Captain Chen found himself staring through the viewport of the upgraded Crimson Talon at the alien vessels, marveling at their elegant design and obvious technological superiority. The Kethran ships were works of art as much as instruments of war. Their hulls seemed to flow like liquid metal, covered in the same light-absorbing material they had seen on Zixka's crashed vessel. But these ships were intact, and the subtle energy patterns dancing across their surfaces spoke of power systems beyond human understanding. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called from her station, "incoming transmission from the Alliance flagship Stormrunner." On screen, the main display flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the alien vessel. Chen had to suppress a moment of vertigo as he took in his first view of a fully operational Kethran military installation. The architecture was flowing and organic, designed for beings larger and more physically capable than humans. And, standing at the command position was a figure that made Zixka look small by comparison. This was clearly a command-level Kethran officer, larger, more heavily built, with ceremonial markings along its fur and what appeared to be advanced cybernetic implants integrated seamlessly with its natural features. When it spoke, the translation carried undertones of authority and barely contained aggression.
Human Captain Chen.
I am Pack Leader Thane Ka, Commander of Alliance, Advanced Reconnaissance Force. Zixka has briefed me on your species' capabilities and potential for partnership. Chen stood and moved to the center of his bridge. Pack Leader Thane Ka, we're honored by the Alliance's willingness to cooperate with Federation forces.
Our crews are prepared for joint operations. Cooperation will be tested immediately. Our sensors detect.
Vorth Scout formation, 3 light hours from current position. Standard doctrine requires immediate elimination before scouts can report Alliance presence. Dr. Warner, who was monitoring from the science station, looked up with concern.
Captain, we haven't had time to test the bonding protocols Zixka mentioned. Are we prepared for immediate combat operations?
Zixka, who had taken position near the tactical display, turned to address the bridge crew. Combat bonding can be established during approach phase. Process requires 30 minutes of shared tactical interface to achieve basic coordination level.
Thane Ka's image leaned forward on the screen.
Zixka speaks truth, but warns human captain, bonding process creates temporary neural link between species.
Some humans may find experience overwhelming.
Chen felt the weight of decision settling on him once again. They were about to engage in combat with an enemy they barely understood, using tactics they had never tested, alongside aliens they had known for less than a month. But the alternative was to face the Vorth Armada without any allies at all.
Pack Leader, what exactly are we facing with this scout formation?
3 vessels, light cruiser class, moderate armament, highly mobile, primary mission reconnaissance, and communication relay. Standard Vorth tactical doctrine requires complete elimination to prevent intelligence transmission to main fleet. Morrison looked up from his engineering console. Captain, our weapons systems are good, but if these scouts have the same technology as the heavy units we've encountered before.
That is why.
Alliance proposes coordinated attack, Thane Ka interrupted. Human ships provide tactical innovation and unpredictable maneuvers. Alliance vessels provide heavy firepower and advanced defensive systems. Combined force significantly more effective than separate operations. Shen made his decision.
Very well. How do we begin this bonding process?
Zixka moved to the center of the bridge and activated a device that appeared to be built into its collar. Immediately, the ship's systems began displaying additional information, tactical overlays, sensor data, and communication networks that Chen had never seen before.
Process requires voluntary participation from human crew members.
Warning: bonding creates temporary, shared awareness, including tactical instincts, emotional responses, and enhanced sensory input.
Dr. Warner stepped forward. Is it safe?
Safe but intense experience. Humans may find enhanced senses overwhelming initially. Also possible, temporary adaptation to Kethran tactical thinking patterns. Chen looked around his bridge at his crew, Rodriguez with her steady competence, Morrison with his engineering brilliance, Warner with her scientific curiosity, and the other officers who had followed him through impossible situations before.
I won't order anyone to participate, he said. This has to be voluntary.
To his surprise, Rodriguez was the first to step forward. Sir, if this gives us an edge against the Vorth, I'm in.
Morrison followed immediately. If Sarah's doing it, so am I.
Besides, I'm curious about how their technology interfaces with ours. Dr. Warner was already moving towards Zixka.
From a scientific perspective, this is the opportunity of a lifetime.
One by one, the entire bridge crew volunteered for the bonding process.
Chen felt a surge of pride in his people, even as he worried about what they were committing themselves to. Zixka, how does this work? The alien activated additional systems, and, suddenly, the bridge was filled with a low, harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate through their bones. Process begins with synchronized breathing, followed by gradual interface activation. Humans must remain calm and open to new sensations. What followed was unlike anything Chen had ever experienced. At first, there was simply an awareness of Zixka's presence in his mind, not intrusive, but definitely there. Then, gradually, his senses began to expand. He could hear electromagnetic frequencies, feel gravitational fluctuations, and sense the approach of distant objects through what could only be described as intuitive awareness. But, more than enhanced senses, he found himself understanding tactical situations with unprecedented clarity. Patterns that would have taken him minutes to analyze became instantly obvious. Weapon firing solutions appeared in his mind without conscious calculation. And, throughout it all, he could sense the presence of his crew, not their thoughts, exactly, but their intentions, their readiness, their absolute trust in his command. Status report, he said, amazed to find that his voice sounded normal despite the radical alteration in his perceptions. Captain, Rodriguez called, her voice carrying a note of wonder. I can see every ship in the task force like they're extensions of my own body. The tactical possibilities are incredible, Morrison finished. I can feel the power flow through all our systems, and somehow I understand how the Alliance technology works. It's like someone just gave me an engineering degree in alien technology. Dr. Warner was studying her readings with obvious excitement. Captain, our reaction times have improved by nearly 40%, and our pattern recognition capabilities have increased dramatically. This bonding process is creating a genuine tactical mind meld. Through their enhanced senses, they detected the approach of the Vorth Scout formation before their conventional sensors even registered contact. 3 dark shapes moving through space with purposeful stealth, clearly attempting to avoid detection while gathering intelligence about the joint task force. Alliance vessels, beginning approach, Thainka's voice carried clearly through their enhanced communication systems. Recommend human ships initiate flanking maneuvers to prevent scout escape, while Alliance provides primary assault. But, through their bonded awareness, Chen and his crew could see tactical possibilities that pure Alliance thinking had missed. The Vorth ships were powerful, but they were also predictable, following standard reconnaissance patterns that could be exploited by unconventional human tactics. Pack leader, Chen found himself saying, his voice carrying new confidence, I suggest a modification to the attack plan. On the tactical display, Chen outlined a strategy that combined human unpredictability with Alliance firepower. Instead of a direct assault, the human ships would use their smaller size and maneuverability to herd the Vorth scouts into a predetermined kill zone while the Alliance vessels remained hidden until the critical moment. Human tactical thinking is indeed unique, Thainka replied, and Chen could sense approval through the bonding link. Alliance concurs with modified strategy. The engagement itself was unlike anything Chen had experienced in his military career. Through the bonding link, he could feel the intentions of every ship in the task force, sense the movements of the enemy vessels, and coordinate complex maneuvers with a precision that would have been impossible through conventional communication. The human ships darted through space like fighters, using their superior agility to confuse and misdirect the Vorth scouts. The aliens tried to break away from the engagement, but every escape route was anticipated and blocked by perfectly timed maneuvers. When the Alliance vessels finally revealed themselves and opened fire, the result was devastating. Energy weapons that made human technology look primitive lanced through space, overwhelming Vorth defensive systems in seconds. But the real triumph was the coordination. Every shot was perfectly timed, every maneuver supported by precise positioning from the other vessels. All enemy vessels destroyed, Rodriguez reported, but Chen could feel the confirmation through their shared awareness before she spoke. No transmission detected, Morrison added. The scouts never had a chance to report our position or capabilities to the main fleet. As the bonding link gradually faded, Chen found himself looking at his crew with new appreciation. They had just fought and won their first joint engagement with an alien species, using capabilities that no human had ever possessed before. Thainka, he said, addressing the Alliance commander, that was remarkable. The coordination level we achieved exceeded all expectations, the alien leader replied, and Chen could hear something like respect in the translated voice. Human tactical instincts, combined with Alliance technology, creates formidable combat capability. Dr. Warner was studying her post-engagement readings with fascination. Captain, the bonding process has left residual neural pathways. We retain enhanced pattern recognition and improved reaction times even after the primary link has faded. Zixka moved to the tactical display, its movements showing obvious satisfaction. First test of joint operations, complete success. But, Captain Chen.
Thainka speaks truth about exceeded expectations.
Human tactical thinking more effective than Alliance predictions suggested.
Through the comms system, they could hear celebrations from the other Federation vessels. This had been their first victory using alien technology and tactics, proving that cooperation between their species was not only possible but devastatingly effective.
But Chen knew this was only the beginning.
They had faced a small scouting force and won through surprise and superior coordination. The real test would come when they faced the main Vorth Armada, 200 warships designed to exterminate entire civilizations. Pack Leader Thainka, he said, our crews need time to fully adapt to joint operations, and we need to analyze the combat data from this engagement.
How long do we have before the main Vorth force arrives? Intelligence suggests 23 standard days before Armada reaches Federation border.
Time enough for training exercises, technology integration, and strategic planning. Chen felt a mixture of hope and apprehension.
23 days to prepare for the most important battle in human history.
23 days to forge an alliance that could save both their civilizations, or watch everything they had built crumble before superior force. But, looking around his bridge at his crew, still showing the aftereffects of their bonding experience, still radiating confidence from their shared victory, he felt something he hadn't experienced since learning about the approaching threat. He felt hope. The Vorth might have superior numbers and advanced technology, but they had never faced the combination of human determination and alien capabilities. And if this first engagement was any indication, that combination might just be enough to surprise an enemy that had conquered every species it had encountered. The real war was about to begin, and humanity would not be fighting alone. The massive combined fleet assembled at the Kepler defense line represented the greatest military cooperation in galactic history. Nearly 200 vessels from the Kethran Alliance floated alongside the entire Federation Navy, 60 ships ranging from converted cargo haulers to purpose-built dreadnoughts. The disparity in technology was obvious, but the past 3 weeks of intensive joint training had proven that human tactical innovation could multiply alien capabilities beyond anything either species had achieved alone. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Indomitable, watching the tactical displays that now seamlessly integrated human and Kethran sensor data. The bonding protocols that had started as an experiment between Captain Chen's crew and Zixka had been refined and expanded across both fleets, creating a level of coordination that seemed almost magical. Admiral, called Commander Lisa Park from the communications station, were receiving final position reports from all task groups.
The defense line is fully deployed. Harrison nodded, studying the three-dimensional hologram that showed their forces arranged across 30 astronomical units of space.
The strategy they had developed was as audacious as it was necessary, using the gravitational fields of the Kepler system's twin gas giants to create a tactical maze that would force the Vorth Armada to approach in smaller groups rather than as a unified force.
Time to Vorth arrival, she asked.
Long-range sensors detect the Armada approximately 4 hours out, replied Dr. Vasquez, who had been transferred to the flagship to coordinate the joint technology systems. Fleet composition matches Zixka's intelligence reports exactly: 200 primary vessels, over 1,000 support ships, and 12 world killer dreadnoughts. On the other side of the bridge, Zixka stood at a specially modified tactical station, its presence now a familiar and reassuring sight to the human crew. Over the past weeks, the alien had become more than just a liaison, it had become a trusted member of the command team, its insights proving invaluable in preparing for this moment. Vorth formation, maintaining standard, assault configuration, Zixka reported through its translator.
Enemy commander, appears confident in overwhelming force advantage. No indication of tactical adaptation for joint alliance human defensive capabilities.
Admiral Harrison allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction.
The Vorth had conquered 17 civilizations using the same basic strategy, overwhelming force applied with ruthless efficiency.
They had never encountered an enemy that could match their coordination while providing tactical surprises that disrupted their carefully planned assaults.
All commands, this is Admiral Harrison, she announced across the fleet communication network. We are about to face the greatest threat humanity has ever encountered. But we do not face it alone.
Our Kethran allies have stood with us, shared their technology with us, and proven that cooperation between our species creates something stronger than either could achieve independently. Through the bonding networks that now connected every ship in the combined fleet, Harrison could feel the resolve of thousands of human and alien warriors. The psychological link that had started as a tactical experiment had evolved into something approaching a collective consciousness focused on a single purpose: survival.
Vorth advance elements entering sensor range, reported Commander Park. Enemy scouts are probing our outer perimeters. Execute Protocol Alpha, Harrison ordered.
Across the defense line, carefully positioned automated beacons began broadcasting false sensor signatures, creating the illusion of a much smaller defensive force clustered around the inner planets. The real fleet remained hidden behind sensor shadows and gravitational distortions, waiting for the Vorth to commit to their attack pattern.
On the tactical display, the enemy force began to resolve into distinct elements. The 12 world-killer dreadnoughts formed the core of the armada, each one capable of sterilizing entire planets.
Around them, heavy cruisers and destroyer groups moved in precise formations that spoke of military discipline refined through countless conquests. "They're taking the bait," Dr. Vasquez observed, watching the Vorth formation begin to accelerate toward what appeared to be the main defensive positions.
The enemy commander is deploying for a conventional assault. Through the bonding link, Harrison could sense Thane's presence aboard the Alliance flagship Stormrunner. The Kethran pack leader's tactical instincts were focused like a blade, waiting for the precise moment to spring their trap.
"Enemy formation, committing to primary assault vector," Thane's mental voice carried clearly through their shared awareness.
Human deception, proving effective. Vorth commander overconfident. The next 2 hours passed in tense preparation as the massive Vorth armada approached the inner system.
Their formation was impressive, a spearhead of world killers protected by layers of escort vessels, with flanking groups positioned to prevent enemy escape. It was the formation of a force that had never known defeat, approaching what they assumed would be another routine extermination. "Admiral," Commander Park called, "Vorth advance elements are entering the engagement zone.
They're beginning active sensor sweeps.
All units, prepare for sequence initiation," Harrison announced.
"Remember, timing is everything. Wait for my command."
The plan they had developed was complex beyond anything either species had attempted before. Using human unpredictability and alien technology, they would turn the Vorth formation's strength against itself through a series of carefully timed maneuvers that would fragment the enemy force and destroy it piecemeal. "Enemy world killers, beginning planetary bombardment preparations," Zixka reported with clinical precision.
"Targeting solutions, focused on inner planets, standard Vorth extermination protocol."
"Let them commit," Harrison replied grimly. "The deeper they penetrate our formation, the more effective our response will be." Through enhanced sensors, they watched the Vorth dreadnoughts begin charging their primary weapon systems, massive energy projectors capable of cracking planetary crusts. The sight of those weapons preparing to fire filled Harrison with cold rage, but she forced herself to wait for the optimal moment.
"Admiral," Dr. Vasquez called urgently, "Vorth sensors are beginning to penetrate our stealth systems. They're detecting some of our hidden units."
"Anticipated," Harrison replied.
"Execute sequence beta." The first phase of their counterattack began with what appeared to be a desperate charge by the visible Federation units. Human ships burst from their positions around the inner planets, racing toward the approaching Vorth force in what looked like a suicidal head-on assault. The Vorth commander responded exactly as predicted, deploying escort groups to intercept and destroy the attacking human ships while keeping the world killers focused on their bombardment preparations. It was textbook Vorth tactics: maintain primary mission focus while using supporting elements to eliminate threats. But the human ships weren't making a suicidal charge. Through the bonding links, their movements were coordinated with mechanical precision, each vessel following a flight path calculated to draw Vorth forces into predetermined positions while avoiding fatal damage through evasive maneuvers that seemed impossible to predict. "Enemy escorts, engaging human vessels," Thaneka reported. "Vorth formation, beginning to extend, as predicted. Phase 2, execute," Harrison commanded. The hidden Alliance vessels revealed themselves in perfect coordination, emerging from sensor shadows and gravitational distortions to attack the now extended Vorth formation from multiple vectors simultaneously. Energy weapons that made human technology look primitive lanced through space, targeting command ships and communication relays with surgical precision. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Vorth formation, stretched across millions of kilometers of space while pursuing what they thought were desperate human survivors,
found themselves under attack from forces they hadn't even known existed.
Enemy communication networks disrupted, reported Commander Park with satisfaction. Their coordination is breaking down.
But the real stroke of genius came with Phase 3. The human ships that had been apparently fleeing suddenly reversed course and began attacking the Vorth world killers from behind, their small size and enhanced maneuverability allowing them to slip through defensive formations that were designed to stop larger vessels. Through the bonding link, Harrison could feel the precise coordination of hundreds of vessels moving as a single entity. Human ships darted between enemy formations like fighters, drawing fire and creating gaps that Alliance vessels exploited with devastating effect. The Kethran ships provided overwhelming firepower while human tactical thinking created opportunities that pure alien logic would never have conceived. First enemy world killer, taking critical damage, Zixka reported with fierce satisfaction. Human attack pattern, disrupting primary, defensive systems. The battle that followed was unlike anything recorded in galactic military history. The Vorth, masters of conventional warfare, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow any recognizable tactical doctrine. Human ships appeared where they shouldn't be able to survive, attacked targets that should have been impossible to reach, and coordinated maneuvers that seemed to violate basic principles of space warfare. Second world killer destroyed, Commander Park announced as another massive explosion lit up the tactical display. Through enhanced sensors, Harrison watched the Vorth formation begin to crumble. Individual ship captains, unable to communicate effectively with their command structure, began making independent decisions that further fragmented their response. What had been a coordinated armada was becoming a collection of isolated groups fighting separate battles. Admiral, Dr. Vasquez called excitedly, Vorth ships are beginning to retreat from multiple sectors. Their formation is completely broken. But Harrison wasn't ready to celebrate yet. Through the tactical link, she could sense that several world killers,